G'day, how you going? Moving overseas to teach can be incredibly exciting, unless you get things wrong. Here are what I believe are the top 7 mistakes that teachers make when they move overseas. Number 1, not researching the school properly. It's really important that you do your due diligence, that you find out as much as you can about the school, find out things about its leadership, find out things about the teacher turnover rate, find out about how the school is seen in the community. You can check out various review sites. There's one called ISR, International Schools Review, but don't believe everything you read on there either, because often those reviews are written by disgruntled teachers who are leaving negative comments, and in many cases they're very outdated as well. There may have been a change of leadership. So my best advice is that you ask someone at the school for an email address, or ask the people who interview you if you can get the email address of one of your future colleagues so that you can get in touch with them and ask them some really honest questions. Number 2, underestimating the cost of living. So you're moving overseas to teach, but you're going to be living overseas and you need to understand how much it's going to cost you to live. You might look at your salary and think, wow, that sounds amazing. But until you really look at the cost of living, it actually doesn't mean anything at all. For example, when I moved from China to Hong Kong, my salary went up by about 30%, but the cost of living was much higher than that. So I found myself saving a lot less money when I was working in Hong Kong, even though I was earning a much higher salary. Number 3, thinking that all international schools are equal. They're definitely not. Recently, there's been a huge increase in the number of international schools, or those schools that are claiming to be international. In many cases, they're actually local schools promoting themselves as international schools, and they're composed mainly of local students. This is the case in China, where there are lots and lots of schools sort of popping up all the time. So they're not all the same, they're not all equal, and in fact, many experienced teachers refer to tiers of school, top tier schools, lower tier schools. And top tier schools are those that have the greater salary, the best packages, that have the reputation, the history attached to them as well, and those that have more stability also. There are some pretty dodgy international schools out there. I know some people who've moved to schools and they thought it was going to be a great experience, and they've really found themselves in a difficult situation because they thought they were in an international school and it wasn't really an international school, or it's just that they assume because it's an international school, everything is going to be amazing, like some of their friends have told them about what it's like to teach in an international school. They are not all the same, so you need to do your due diligence. Number 4, ignoring the fine print in the contract. So this should be an obvious one. When you're signing a contract for a job, you need to read it really carefully. There are lots and lots of things that pop up that you just might not be aware of. For example, make sure that if they're providing you with health insurance, that it covers your dependents as well, whether that's your wife, your husband, your children. Also, making sure that you know when the contract begins and ends, and when your salary begins and when your salary ends. Making sure you understand things like return flights. Do you get a return flight to your country of origin every year? And also things about contract renewals. In many cases, you might start out on a 2-year contract, but then when the renewal comes, it's only a 1-year contract. So read the fine print, check everything, ask lots and lots of questions. Number 5, underestimating culture shock and homesickness. You're moving to a place that's probably very different to where you've lived and grown up. And there are many things that you might find challenging, whether it's language, of course, which can be a huge obstacle in some places, but also whether it's just different ways of doing things, different attitudes towards work, different ways that people are treated within the community that you're moving to. And the other thing is homesickness. You probably think, well, you're an adult, you're not going to get homesick. It's not like you're going off to a boarding school and you're in grade 5 or something like that. But you may find that, you really start to miss your home and you wonder why you've made this decision. And it was the case with me when I took my first international teaching job, which was in the Philippines. I really wanted to get home the first chance that I could, back to see my friends, my family, and to get back immersed into my sort of more familiar surroundings. But eventually that fades away and you start thinking about the new place as being your real home, and that's a wonderful thing once you get to that point. But expect homesickness to be a reality. Number 6, neglecting financial planning. So the reality is that you're going to be earning an income, you're going to be spending a lot of money, and you need to make sure that you've taken into account all of your finances well before you arrive. You need to do a lot of research, You need to come up with a budget, you need to work out exactly what your salary will be and what your expenses will be. So this relates to something I said earlier regarding the cost of living, but the key thing here is that there are things that can happen while you're away that you need to be able to take care of. And for example, if you need to get back home really quickly, you need to have savings. You need to be able to have a safety net. And things might not work out. You might find that you're going to break contract and leave, and you need to be able to, again, pay to leave the country, pay to get your things moved, pay for the outstanding rent, or certain things that you need to take care of. So financial planning is really important. Even going away from the possible emergencies, you need to make sure that you've got a plan in place to put away a substantial amount of money. One of the reasons people move overseas is to save, to be better off financially, so that when you do return home, or if you stay abroad for a long period of time, when you retire, you've got money put away. And it may not be forced. So for example, in Australia, people have superannuation, where part of your income is actually deducted automatically, and sometimes it's matched by the employer. If that doesn't exist in your new place of work, if there isn't any retirement plan or package, then you've got to do it yourself. You've got to put the money away, and you've got to use it wisely, invest it, and make sure that you have a financial plan. Number 7, avoiding the local community. This is what some people unfortunately do. They move overseas, they get themselves into this incredible sort of expat community. It becomes a little bit of a bubble. They think it's an amazing lifestyle, hanging out with all these people from their school where they work. And then they realize that all of their friends are their work colleagues, and they don't have any friends from outside of school, but also they don't have any local friends. Having local friends is just the most amazing thing. You learn so much more about the culture. If you're trying to learn a language, it's going to help you a lot with that. And in some cases, it's much easier than others. In the Philippines, for example, because Filipinos speak English so well, it was very easy to make local friends, and I've still got friends to this very day that I made in the Philippines who are still living in the Philippines. Some that I work with, but many from outside of work. But it's a real challenge in some places because of the language barrier to actually make friends in the country that you're living, to make local friends. But it's really, really important to create those connections with the community, and not just to live in your expat bubble where all of your friends are from Australia and the US and the UK and you don't have any local friends. But it's the only way to really learn about the place where you're living, is to make friends, not just from outside your school community, but outside of your normal sort of circle of friends and the normal nationalities of people, I suppose, that you would normally associate with. So there you have it, my top 7 mistakes to avoid. Please don't make those mistakes. Please learn from the mistakes of others, people like myself. It's an incredible experience that awaits you if you're moving overseas for the very first time to teach. But please just make sure you plan it well, do your research, know exactly what you're in for, and take advantage of one of the most incredible opportunities that you'll ever have. Okay, that's it for this video. See you next time.